Minister, Numbeo, the biggest internet data base in the European Union in relation to the cost of living, ranks Ireland as the 6th most expensive country in Europe in which to live. On the cost of rent, we are ranked the 3rd most expensive, with only Switzerland and Luxembourg ranking more expensive than this state. The more frequently updated website, Expatistan, ranks Dublin as the 4th most expensive city in terms of price in Europe, with only 3 Swiss cities ranking more expensive. Your government, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, are presiding over a rapid increase in costs in this state, costs of families, costs of businesses and costs to society. And it's precious little being done by your government to put the brakes on these increases in costs that are affecting people throughout society at the moment. There have been 31 separate price increases in energy supplies in 2021 alone. And for farmers, the production of foods, they're seeing one of their most important inputs, fertilizers, triple in price in the last 12 months. And we know that that's going to see an increase in the level of food prices in the family home very, very shortly as well. Energy costs have increased by more than 50%, and the November inflation in this state hit a 20-year high. There's no doubt that there are international factors in relation to this, but the government itself are playing a role in the increase in costs to families at the moment. And just, you know, I want to mention the issue of housing and supply chains in this state. In 2021, the house building in this country was closed down for the first quarter. For 4 months, there was no homes in this state that were built. 10,000 homes weren't built. Now, we were the only country in Europe that closed down building sites completely in the first quarter of last year. So the country that had the biggest housing crisis was the only country that actually shut down completely the building of houses. And you know, a lot of the supply chain problems that we're seeing are outworkings of the government's over-reliance on enormously long restrictions and severe restrictions. And it's unfortunate that I don't think any other party is going to mention that in this whole debate about prices here today as well. In relation to fuel, one of the main sources of these price increases is actually fuel. Now, the government has settled upon a carbon tax policy, which is a very draconian and blunt policy. What it does, it raises a tax years in advance. You don't even know the circumstances that people are going to be living in 2 or 3 years' time, yet you're setting a carbon tax for 2 or 3 years' time. An incredible situation. The idea that carbon tax is meant to achieve a price to push people away from carbon fuels, but if the market has already achieved that price, well then the carbon tax in itself is just punitive. It's not actually has no purpose other than that it's hurting many families around the country. You could go to the European Union, you could look for a derogation in relation to VAT. I spoke to the Taoiseach yesterday. He said he has never asked the European Union for a derogation on VAT. You know, the only thing that seems to be warm this winter is the government's hands from sitting on them all the time in relation to these issues. In relation to the European interest rates, I would bet you all the money we have that the government has never gone and asked the European Union to set interest rates to have some level of break in relation to inflation. Absolutely not. Because why? Because Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil don't do that. A laissez-faire political party that allows these things to happen to families right across the country, and it's wrong. Gurb Maga the Cahirirlik.